Deion Sanders wants the marching band, the Colorado marching band, to wait playing the touchdown song when the Buffalo score, so that only when Shador scores, so that way Shador's preferred song can play over the PA. And it's like, man, like I get it. Like you're trying to like do things differently. You're trying to promote your kid who's going to be very highly touted in the upcoming draft class. But come on, like at a certain point, it starts to look like a clown show, and it's starting to look like a clown show.
I'm a Giants fan, and I have no interest in Shador Sanders solely because of Deion. And I say this as a fan of a team that's going to draft a quarterback this upcoming season, because we'll get into that with my Rip and Rant in a minute. But I just want no part of everything that comes with Deion and anything in that orbit. I really want nothing to do with, except aside from Travis Hunter. Like I would take Travis Hunter on the Giants in a heartbeat, but everything else, I would just put it aside.
It reminds me of Lonzo Ball in a way, and it was annoying, but like that's a dad promoting his 3 kids, and like he's not a coach. He's he not to say he doesn't know any better, but like Deion, you were an all-pro college football player, hell of a baseball player, like you've been a pro athlete, like you've been on the it's just like I get it. Like I want to do everything I can for my kid too, but like there's certain things where it's like you're starting to become a spectacle. Is what's happening. You're becoming bigger than
almost like a caricature of himself.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, just chill. Just can you worry about Colorado winning on the field?
Which, by the way, they're not going to do a whole lot of because they're Colorado and they're not that good. And you would think Colorado would get more players in the transfer portal than they have because of Deion. And you would think that with Deion being who he is, like they'd be winning 9, 10 games every year and being in a high prestige, high profile bowl game, and one of the faces of college football. And no, they're about as mid a program as it gets. And I don't know. That's all I really have on Deion.
Speaking of poor play on the field, I give the floor to you.
Yeah, my Riff Rant's going to be on the Giants after watching that Week 1 performance, which it was about everything I expected it to be, which is certainly a problem with the Giants. I have a lot of thoughts off of that game. But it ultimately comes down to Daniel Jones, and this being a confirmation of everything I thought about Daniel Jones. Like the guy just isn't an NFL starting caliber quarterback. Like he's a bottom 5 NFL starting quarterback. He won't. I'm not sure which one it is, but he won't push the ball downfield, which is just really rough. Brian Dable did him no favors with the play calling. I don't know why you're calling design quarterback runs for a guy who's playing his first NFL game coming off a torn ACL 10 months ago. Like that it makes no sense. There was just no creativity with the offense. And even though like Malik Neighbors had 5 catches, that the Giants offense should be schemed around getting the ball into Malik Neighbors' hands as much as possible, because he's really one of the few playmakers they actually have. And that's the only way they're going to score points is, explosive plays. And they just don't have any guys to do that, especially since they let Saquon Barkley go, which is a whole other thing after watching him score 3 touchdowns for the Eagles. Like, I get why they let Saquon go, but if you're John Mara and you watch Saquon score 3 touchdowns with the Eagles, and then you look at the Giants and you look at Devin Singletary get 3 yards of carry and fall down, like what are we doing here? So,
not even 3 touchdowns for Saquon. 3 touchdowns on what everybody said was a crappy field, and he still had a good day. And running backs don't like to run on crappy fields, and he still found a way. So,
right. I mean, well, he's used to running on a crappy field in MetLife Stadium. So there you go.
There you go.
Then you have the defense is kind of whatever. Like it's weird. They have a really good defensive line with, in theory, with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns. And 2 of those players were invisible on Sunday. Like Thibodeau did nothing. Brian Burns didn't do anything. Lawrence made an impact. And every time he got out of the game, the Vikings made a point to, run hurry up so he couldn't get back on the field so they could actually run the ball and run their offense. So the Giants are just a disaster. I don't see any way this team wins more than 5 games, and it's really going to come down to when they decide to pull the plug on Daniel Jones and protect themselves from the injury guarantee.
So here's the thing: when like you say, like, oh, they're not going to win 5 games. This game against the Vikings, this was, if you looked at the Giants' schedule, you got Sam Darnold coming in as the quarterback. You know, like this was a game that, like, all right, if the Giants are going to be competitive or win any of them,
That's when they had to have.
That was when they had to have, and like it's at home. Like it could, like for Daniel Jones, it literally could not have gone any worse. Now, like I'm not one of these people that like, oh, if you believe it and blah blah blah, if you vision it, it can make it happen. But it's like, dude, like this was like you don't like you had to step. You could not have had a worse outing. Like it's just it's bad. And also just on Kayvon Thibodeau for a second, like if you can't handle fair questions related to your job, then don't play in New York. I'm sorry, or don't play anywhere. Like. It's not like that a reporter was asking a question trying to bait you into an answer about Daniel Jones's poor play or something like that. He asked about the pass rush. Last time I checked, the Giants spent a high draft pick on you because you're good at rushing the passer. This ain't Eugene, Oregon anymore. If you can't handle questions, and don't play in New York.
Right, and not only the high draft pick on him, they spent another draft pick to bring in Brian Burns and gave him a boatload of money as well. So they made all this effort to improve the pass rush. The one thing I will say about the Giants, I know the excuse in the past with Daniel Jones is, well, the offensive line stinks. I didn't think the offensive line was that bad on Sunday. I went back and rewatched the game. You know, there were certainly plays there where, he's holding on to the ball a little too long, and, you hold on to the ball long enough, the pocket's just going to break down. I didn't think the protection was the problem on Sunday. So, like, it really just further supports my theory that you get a different quarterback in there. Like, the most explosive the Giants offense looked last year was when Tyrod Taylor got into games late in the year. And I suspect that if it gets to a point this year where they wind up getting Drew Lock in the games, they'll probably be something similar.
Yeah, I think like at some you have to give Daniel Jones a little bit more of a leash before you pull the plug on him, and like you said, but also make sure before he gets hurt. But yeah, I think once Drew Lock comes in, he becomes like the Giants' offense will at least look competent at that point, I think. And I understand on the defense when the offense is just doing nothing but 3-and-outs and giving you short fields and turning the ball over, that makes it tough on you. I get that. But you also kind of knew the situation going in. This is not blindsiding you out of left field. The Daniel Jones stinking has been, we've known this for a while. Now, you mentioned Tyrod Taylor. I know you had some thoughts on the Jets as well off of the Monday night game.
Well, I want to get your thoughts first, since you're the resident Jet fan. I have my own thoughts, and more of me like needling and me sort of poking holes at the whole, well, the Jets are Super Bowl contenders idea, which is something I've never bought into, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
I don't think they were Super Bowl contenders. And trying to be realistic, all I want is for the playoff drought to come to an end and maybe one playoff victory, a wild card round, something. Just give me something. That's really all I want this season. Now, going back to last night, they had that one drive where it was like, oh my God, if this is what the offense is capable of, like they're going to be a really tough team to stop. The defense is going to look good. We're still waiting. Hassan Reddick, by the way, was like Mr. Burns last night. Excellent. Watching the Jets pass rush be pretty ineffective.
I'm sure he was thrilled.
Yes. So that's going to be interesting. This because Joe Douglas didn't cave to Jamal Adams. So like, I don't know like how he plays this, especially off of last night, but off of that drive, you're thinking like, all right, great, but we need to see more of this. And then that was it for the night. And you just didn't see anything else. I mean, and again, it's opening on the road in San Francisco against what we know is one of the best teams in the league, strong defense, offense. I know Ayuk was a little rusty off of the holdout. So like, he wasn't at full. You didn't have Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason certainly filled a void nicely for the McCaffrey last night. I mean, I'm not ready to panic yet, and I'm not going to, but if they go into Tennessee and do this again next week, that's a problem. If it's one thing to have a tough night against the 49ers, and I recognize you got a long flight back on a short week, and then you're going to get back on a plane and go to Nashville. So it's not ideal, but like the show, I don't want to say Tennessee's a must-win game, but like it kind of feels like that a little bit early.
Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it with your analysis there. I have a few thoughts. I'd never have doubted Aaron Rodgers' ability to still spin the ball, and like he can certainly still throw the football with the best of them. And I mean, he's the Michael Jordan of whenever there's that free play when somebody jumps off sides, he's throwing deep, and he obviously connected there with Lazard on the touchdown pass, which was about as close to vintage Rodgers as you're going to get there. I am a little bit concerned with the lack of mobility from Rodgers coming off the torn Achilles, and we are talking about a player who's 40 years old, and he needs to be able to move around the pocket at least a little bit. So that's something I would probably look out for in future weeks. I'm not buying this Jets defense, and I'm glad you mentioned Hassan Reddick. Championship caliber defenses don't give up scoring plays on 8 consecutive possessions. And that's something that the Jets did last night, which it's just something you can't happen. I know a lot of them were field goals. They kept them out of the end zone for the most part, but I mean, you're not going to win football games against good teams when you're just giving up that many points. And they only gave up whatever it was, 29 or 30,
32.
32. It was 32 was the final, 32-19. But it certainly could have been a lot worse in that respect.
And one of those touchdowns was Tyrod Taylor, garbage time.
Correct. Yes. And that was another interesting thing too. They got Rodgers out of there late, but they kept the rest of the starters in, which I'm not sure I would love if I were a Jet fan. If you're going to bench Rodgers to protect him, then you got to get the rest of the studs out of there. Like Garrett Wilson's got to be out of there. Breece Hall's got to be out of there. The offensive linemen that are worth a damn got to be out of there. So.
And Mike Williams didn't play a ton last night. So like, I understand they're easing him back in, but like, how much are we easing him back in? Like, is it just like one more week and he's ready to go? Or is this going to be like his snap count is going to slowly increase? They need him on the field too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big body who can stretch the field, so you certainly want him out there. I mean, the problem with Mike Williams is he's never healthy, which is, something with him dating back to all those years with the Chargers. Like, he'll go and he'll have that one random game where he catches like 2 long touchdown passes and he's a force offensively, but
then he disappears for 4 games.
Yeah, exactly, because he's hurt. So I don't know. Hopefully he gets healthy. I think the Jets will bounce back this week, though. I mean, they got the Titans. I've been watching. I'm going to watch a lot of the Titans this year, and let's just say I'm not very impressed with Will Levis. So
this is a perfect like bounce back tee off spot for the Jets, like a nice 38-13 kind of like, all right, we're here, like.
Oh, I'm not even saying that much of a blowout. Like, just win the game. I don't care how much you win the game.
It's a road game, short week, fine.
Yeah, you're on the road. 20 or 13. I don't care how you fucking do it. Just go and win the game.